Chapter 30. The Golden Finger. When they entered the theater lobby, they found themselves surrounded by the image of Lord Pharaoh, depicted as a shadowy outline of a man in a gold cape. Seemingly overnight, the invisible magician, as he was called, had become an industry unto himself. Kiosks sold Lord Pharaoh's t-shirts and posters. There were DVDs and calendars. There was even a magic set that came in a big gold box. Max Ernst looked at it wistfully. Cass might have let him buy it too, had the timing been better, and had Lord Pharaoh's name not been on it. "Can you believe all this stuff for that creep?" asked Cass. "He sure works fast." "Actually, the calendar is pretty easy to make," said Yoji. "You could make most of the stuff in under an hour if you wanted." "Geesh, listen to what they're saying," said Max Ernst. Everybody around them was talking about Lord Pharaoh. Supposedly he's just a shimmering cloud of dust. You never see him. It's like he's really invisible. They say he's the greatest magician since Houdini. "That's an insult to Houdini," Max Ernst muttered, offended. Cash shushed him, and then they filed into the theater. It was the vast Vegas-sized theater with the mezzanine and several balcony levels. As they found their seats near the stage in the orchestra section, the audience continued to buzz with anticipation. "I heard he's a real alchemist. He can actually turn lead into gold. Even other magicians don't know how he does it. Is it true he'll turn your watch into gold right in front of everyone?" Cass rolled her eyes. "What they don't know is they could be just as amazing as Lord Pharaoh. All they'd have to do was eat Senior Hugo's chocolate," she whispered, sitting down. "I thought there wasn't any more chocolate left," Yoji said, sitting down next to her, "so they couldn't eat it even if they knew about it." "We don't know that," said Max Ernst, sitting on the other side of Cass. "I keep thinking, for him to have gone all this way, he must have figured out how to make the chocolate himself." "Anyway, it's not the point," said Cass. "The point is, he's a jerk. All these people think he's a genius. He's like the Wizard of Oz. Just a little old guy behind a velvet curtain." "Actually, the Wizard of Oz was a time traveler too, come to think of it," Max Ernst mused. "Remember, he's that quick medicine salesman from Dorothy's own time who winds up in Oz just like her. Well, I guess Kansas to Oz isn't time travel technically. It's more like interdimensional travel. Or is it intradimensional? I always forget the difference." Yoji gave Max Ernst one of those increasingly frequent "you are totally insane" looks. "Shh, they're starting," said Cass. Their expressions grew serious as the light dimmed. Jerk or genius or both, Lord Pharaoh had bested them in the past. They would need all of their wits about them if they were going to get through the evening unscathed. "Welcome to the Golden Dawn," said a soothing voice over the loudspeaker. "No cameras and no recording devices, please. Anybody caught recording the show will be escorted out of the theater immediately." Cass nudged her friends. Guards with headsets stood on all four corners of the rooms by the exit doors. She was relieved to see that the guards weren't wearing gloves, but it also made her nervous. Where was the midnight sun? Why hadn't they shown up anywhere? The stage was dark. The orchestra began to play first softly and then more loudly until it opened up into a big brassy beginning. The James Bond theme song, Golden Finger. Two identical female voices began to sing in duet about the man with the Midas touch, a spider's touch. Goldfinger is the villain in the James Bond movie of the same name. Obsessed with gold, he kills a woman by painting her entire body with it. Midas is a figure from Greek mythology who literally had a golden touch. Everything he touched turned to gold, even his family. As for the spider's touch, that is something I experience all too often in my current hideout. Curse of these damn creatures. Suddenly the spotlight created circles at opposite ends of the stage. In each circle stood a slim young woman with long blonde hair wearing a crinkly golden bodysuit. Or maybe I should say young seeming women, for these were the Skeleton Sisters, young by the standards of the Midnight Sun. They were at least 40 years old by any reasonable estimation, and yet they seemed and looked and talked and behaved like teenagers. "Which one is Rami and which one is Montana?" Max Ernst whispered. "I can't tell them apart." I don't know, don't care. Thought we'd never have to see them again. Wishful thinking, said Yoji. The sisters continued to sing about the sinister Mr. Goldfinger and about his web of sin, swaying in unison and wagging their fingers like Motown singers of old. More stage lights came on, revealing several dozen scantily clad dancers, male and female, whose bare skin was covered with gold body paint, and flipped and spun and twirled in an acrobatic blur of gold limbs and torsos. Then the song ended and the dancers receded into the background, and Lord Pharaoh's voice echoed through the theater. It seemed to have come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Gold, the most malleable of metals and the most precious. A symbol of power and perfection, of royalty and immortality, it never tarnishes. The light, flat, first dim and brighter, shone on the center of the stage, revealing a gleaming gold coffin. It bore no hieroglyphs or markings of any kind, but it had the unmistakable shape of an Egyptian sarcophagus. The ancient Egyptians adorned the dead with gold to pave their way to the afterlife, Lord Pharaoh continued. His voice was sonorous and authoritative, with just a trace of his 16th century European roots. The Spanish conquistadors sailed the globe, courting death and disaster. And in their search for El Dorado, the mythical city of gold, today gold is a place around the necks of Olympians and on the heads of kings. But it was the medieval alchemists who loved gold best. In their quest for the philosopher's stone, they strove to turn ordinary objects into gold and hence to achieve the greatness of Midas. Their dream is alive tonight. The lid of the gold sarcophagus rose slowly onto the air and then stopped, seemingly to hover about 5 feet above the base. Allow me to introduce myself. As the music reached a crescendo, the skeleton sisters stepped forward simultaneously, each threw their headful of shimmering gold dust in the direction of the sarcophagus. I am Lord Pharaoh, the crowd gasped. The shadow of a man, literally the outline of a man, but shadow better describes the effect, had emerged in the shimmering dust and was now stepping out of the sarcophagus. Cass grabbed Maxarus' hand. Yoji grabbed Cass's arm. Maxarus screwed shut his eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, even though they'd been looking for him, even though they'd hawked their coin and bought the tickets and waited to see him. It was almost too terrible to watch now that he was here. But I am not only Lord Pharaoh, I am all the pharaohs of the past and future. He spoke. One of the skeleton sisters held up a long cape of gold satin and draped it over his shimmering dust shoulders. The cape was topped with a big gold collar and appeared to be floating in the air. Scarabs and the eyes of Horus and other Egyptian symbols were embroidered on the fabric. The other skeleton sister placed the crown on the shimmering head. Maxarus recognized it as the double crown worn by the pharaoh to symbolize the union of the Upper and Lower Egypt. Meanwhile, the skeleton sisters reprised the Goldfinger chorus. As gold dust floated to the ground, Lord Pharaoh grew fainter and fainter until he was nearly invisible underneath his cape. Just as he was about to disappear altogether, he held a single solid gold finger aloft. An image of a finger magnified many times over appeared on a silver screen behind him, so that people in the back row could see it. Although it appeared to be made of gold, it was thin and bony and crooked, and there was no mistaking whose finger it was. That's it, the mummy's finger, Yoji whispered. You must have dipped it in gold or something, said Maxarus. When the music died down, the skeleton sisters removed Lord Pharaoh's cape and crown. All that was left of the audience to see was the mummy's gold finger, shown on the screen again, and that barest hint of gold dust. The gold finger that you see once graced the hand of the greatest doctor in ancient Egypt, a man who known the most precious secret of the universe. Inundated with invisible Lord Pharaoh, the man is now a mummy. Soon, though, the power of gold, he will live again. The audience murmured in awe as images of ancient Egypt flickered behind him. The skeleton sisters rolled the golden sarcophagus to the center of the stage. As ominous music played, it began to rise in the air. When a few feet off the ground, it began tilting further and further forward till floating upright. Behold the mummy. As Lord Pharaoh spoke, the lid of the sarcophagus floated away, and spotlight revealed the sarcophagus occupant, the mummy. When I have brought him back to this world from the next, he will be my slave, and I will possess all his power. Lord Pharaoh murmured a few words of ancient Egyptian. O mighty Toph, let this finger rejoin the hand of its master. The finger glowed in fiery orange, and he reattached it to the mummy's hand. From where our friend sat, it looked like pure magic, but of course it also was possible that he was using glue. Behind Lord Pharaoh, hieroglyphs appeared on the screen. They looked as though they were being burned into the sheets of gold. I have only to place the gold ring of Toph onto the mummy's finger, and this once great man will breathe once more. I don't get it, Maximus said to Cass. You still have the ring, don't you? She touched her neck. Uh-huh. Not for long, said Yoji darkly. Look who's coming. His friends turned just in time to see their old adversary Daisy hoisting Yoji out of his seat. Hey, let go of me, cried Yoji. Gladly, said the massive Midnight Sun member. She tossed him into the aisles as if he weighed no more than a pillow. Ah, he held his shoulder in pain. The audience murmured nervously. Lord Pharaoh scoffed loudly. Ha! Do not be alarmed, ladies and gentlemen. I'll pair the show, of course. And now if my lovely assistant Cassandra will please bring me the ring. A spotlight fell on Cass where she was sitting. Suddenly the entire room full of eyes were on her. She shrank back in her seat. Daisy reached for Cass. You, come with me. No way. You can't take her, Maximus said bravely. Do not worry, this is only a game, Lord Pharaoh reassured his audience. Cassandra, she likes to play what is the common contemporary expression, hard to get. The audience laughed like any good Vegas audience, probably because the track of pre-recorded laughter cued them in the background. Cass, on the other hand, did not feel like laughing at all. She looked over at Yoji for help, but he was now being held by 2 security guards. She looked at the other direction. There were guards waiting on the opposite aisles. There was no escape. Don't fight. Then they'll take you too, she whispered to Maximus. He didn't fight, but they took him anyway.